Hello, everyone. What I want to talk to y'all today about is the literature of terror and suspense essay. I posted a bunch of stuff to Google Classroom to hopefully help you guys out, but I also know that sometimes you need to hear someone's voice explain it because it helps the process. So, what I'm going to do today is talk to you guys about what you're seeing on Google Classroom, which I have pulled up in front of me right now at this very moment. Okay, so we looked at four different stories in this mini year dealing with terror and suspense, kind of in the spirit of Halloween, and kind of carried over into November, but that's okay. So we looked at The Dead Rising, The Chicken Coop Monster, The Legend of Sleepy Hollow, and The Picture of Dorian Gray. All four of these stories can be found on Google Classroom. Okay, so what we did in class, I'm kind of giving you these notes right here on Google Classroom. Was what same notes we came up with in class was we looked at these four stories and tried to figure out the theme or moral that was presented to us in the text. Okay, so with The Dead Rising, we figured out that when people gather together due to fear, they tend to panic and lose their minds. So, like in The Dead Rising, the people of Exeter, Rhode Island, they legit, because they didn't know any better, thought they were being attacked by vampires, killing them one by one, when really it was tuberculosis. They just didn't understand because they didn't even know what germs were. So, in their minds, it was vampires. So they panicked. And so, as you guys saw in the text of that story, they literally dug up several bodies, cut open their bodies, ripped out their hearts, burned the hearts, drank the ashes, thinking that would cure them of the vampire disease that was going around the community when really it was just tuberculosis. And we can look back and say, yo, damn chicks, crazy dog. But to them, in the 1890s, they didn't know any better. Okay, they didn't have the knowledge we know now. So what they thought they were doing the right thing to protect their community. Okay, so we kind of learn from that when people gather due to fear, they tend to panic and lose their minds. The chicken coop monster. As you read that, you figured out that Missy, her parents are getting divorced. She's been sent to live with grandma and grandpa in the mountains of Tennessee. That feeling of rejection from her parents kind of manifests itself into the form of a monster living in the chicken coop. Nobody else can see the monster, hear the monster, but she knows it's there and it's very real to Missy. Now, Daddy James, her grandfather, comes along and reminds her, hey, yo, love drives out fear. And she uses that advice to get rid of her personal demon that's hiding in the chicken coop, which presents itself as a rooster with a tin can stuck on its foot. To her, the monster's real. To us, we know it's kind of her imagination, but she learns that love drives out fear. And reminding yourself that you're surrounded by people that love you, you can conquer almost everything. So that's why we wrote that there. The Legend of Sleepy Hollow, that's a kind of a more famous story about Ichabod Crane and the Headless Horseman. We know that Ichabod learns, well, should have learned by the end of the story, not to believe everything he reads and hears about, and not to let others take advantage of you. Um, Ichabod's at that famous party at the Van Tassel household, and he hears these stories of ghosts and goblins that haunt Sleepy Hollow, but most particularly the Headless Horseman. Now, it's kind of ironic that as he goes home that night, he's remembering all these stories like the Wailing Woman in White and the dead soldiers that haunt the area, but particularly that Headless Horseman. He's thinking about it, and then lo and behold, out of nowhere, the Headless Horseman shows up. And we're kind of left to our own imagination. Was it the actual Headless Horseman, or was it a figment of Ichabod's imagination? So, we did mention in the text, they do say several times, try to live a decent life. That's a little bit hard to apply to a story when trying to come up with a theme or moral that can be applied to. Sorry about that. I had to pause it because I had somebody come in the room. All right. Anyways, get back. Last one, Picture Dorian Gray. That's the last one we read. We know that Dorian Gray kind of wishes that, oops, it just disappeared, y'all. Dorian Gray wishes that he could stay young forever, and so that famous painting that Basil Hallward paints of him ages every time he does something terrible, while Dorian Gray, over the course of 40 years, does not age a single day, not even a single minute. He stays young and fresh, looking like he's 18 or 19, 20 years old. And we kind of, in class, we talked about how some people get very caught up in their looks, and sometimes they value their looks over being a good friend or something like that. So we kind of politely said, don't get so caught up in your looks that you cannot live a good life. If that applies to you, fantastic. If it doesn't, that's okay too. Um, we definitely said don't hang out with bad influences because Henry Wooten kind of corrupts Dorian Gray throughout that story, inspires him to do all these terrible things, and then sits back and kind of laughs when Dorian Gray, his life is turned into a hot mess. And then we also said it's never too late to change because at the end of Dorian Gray, he kind of decides, hey, I've been a bad person and I want to be better and I'm going to start doing that right now. And he stares at his painting. His painting's kind of mocking him, and he's like, "Oh, you don't think I can change?" And it kind of goes from there. That's a weird story, y'all. If you read the picture of Dorian Gray and said, "Yo, this guy's a hot mess," it's because that story is a hot mess. Everyone, literally everyone in that story is crazy. Henry Wooten's crazy. Dorian Gray's crazy. Sybil Vane's crazy. They're all totally nuts. So if you read the picture of Dorian Gray and said, "Yo, these people cray, you are not alone right there. You are completely not alone." Okay? So those are our 4 stories and the kind of themes and morals that we kind of presented ourselves with and said, yo, these apply to them. So I'm looking at, I'll go back to Google Classroom. This document is posted in Google Classroom. We marked it up in class, but let me show you where it is on Google Classroom. It's right here. It says Literature, Terror, and Suspense. And that's your copy right there that you can look at. What I'm going to do, I'm going to pull up the copy we marked up in class. So let me show you what that kind of looks like. So what you're doing on this essay, you're taking those 4 stories, you're pretty much going to pick one of those to write about. You don't need to write about all 4, just pick one, okay? And so this one has spelling boo-boo on. I fixed it for the online copy. It says, remember that chart of morals that we've been compiling during this unit? It's going to be super handy while complaining this assignment. Okay, and that chart of morals is right here that I just talked to y'all about. Okay, that's the chart of morals. Okay, so in the intro paragraph, all you gotta do, state the story that you'll be discussing and the theme or moral that we recognize in class that was associated with the story. Make sure you pull the reader in with the proper hook. Remember to pick one story. I'm going to show you an example of that in just a moment. Second paragraph says, explain how the moral is connected to your story of choice. What is the significance of the moral to the characters? What do the characters do to cause the moral theme to surface in the story? Again, that is going to be about the story, nothing else. Paragraph 3, explain your personal connection to the moral. I'm going to read that again so you can hear me. Explain your personal connection to the moral. Give an example from your life that connects you to the moral or theme. How did you come into interaction with this moral? That paragraph, all about you. All about you. Nothing about the story, all about you. Fourth paragraph is asking your opinion. Hey, your opinion is never, ever, 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 ever wrong. Don't forget that, okay? So, fourth paragraph is explain why you think this particular moral is one that should resonate or be shared with others. What potential problems could this moral present or solve, or prevent or solve? In what ways could this moral help you in your own personal affairs, okay? And the last paragraph, you guys know, as a conclusion paragraph, your conclusion and your intro should look the same, taste the same, and be just a little bit different, kind of like a hamburger bun. Like the top of the bun and the bottom of the bun look the same, taste the same, they're just a little bit different. I'm about to make another video explaining these detail for detail, step by step, so you want to stay tuned to watch part 2.